Hello, everyone. My name is Graham Sheldon. Welcome to the SmallHD social channels. I am here with a good friend, Tiffany Murray, and we're going to talk about how we utilized SmallHD, Teradek, actually a few different brands on this last feature. So hello, Tiffany.
Hey, how's it going, Graham?
Not too bad. Thank you for joining me here during quarantine. So I am a producer and director of photography by trade. On this film, I was A-cam, I did drone, I did a little bit of underwater with you, and just sort of jack of all trades, little second unit stuff as well. So Tiffany, why don't you talk about what you do, and then we can launch into So Cold the River.
Sure. Yeah, so on this, I was the first AC. That's what I primarily do. And then I also DP and direct here and there, just rising up the ranks in that way as well.
So Cold the River, we should say. It's a thriller. It stars Joy Lenz and Andy West. We shot it in a tiny town in Indiana called West Baden Springs. And it was a crew of about 70, middle of winter in Indiana. So Tiffany, why don't you start us off here? There are some unique challenges to filming in the elements. Tell me a little bit about some of the challenges from your perspective that we had while filming So Cold the River.
Sure, yeah. I mean, it was very cold. We were shooting in the rain and the snow on muddy beaches and old bridges, and then also in this giant hotel. So there were a lot of different situations where we had to kind of manipulate our kit.
Well, that's worth pointing out that over the course of this film, we were shooting Steadicam, Ronin 2.
Underwater housings.
How could I forget underwater housings, right? So it's important that your accessories, your monitors are able to sort of match the fast pace of the production, right? And are able to move as quickly as we had to move, going from like a car rig to underwater to, cherry picker, all sorts of different setups. Why don't you go into specifically what was the SmallHD technology that we had on set?
Yeah, we had two 1703 P3Xs. We had a Bolt 703, standard 703, and then a Cine 7 as well.
And I guess one of the challenging things about having a crew of 70-ish people, we haven't done the full count, is who has access to a monitor and why. I think we had something like 5 monitors on set, right, Tiffany? So who had a monitor? And then we came up with a sort of fun solution to expand the amount of people that could view the camera image. So why don't you touch on that a little bit?
So we had a Cine 7 on board for our operators, and then I had a 703 Bolt for focus pulling. We had another 703 for director monitor, or like a on-the-go monitor to, lend to art or DP, whoever needed it. And then we had two 17-inch monitors for our director DP village, and also our big village, as we called it, our producer village. So lots of monitors, lots of people wanting to watch, and believe it or not, even with those 5 monitors, we still had people craning their necks to see. So we implemented the Teradek Serve system, which allowed us to send out signal from our 17-inch monitor out to anyone with the Serve Pro app. So it was super convenient, and it allowed my AC team to not have to freak out about moving 100 monitors.
Of course. Yeah, that's one of the things. I mean, everyone wants this, gigantic video village, but they just have to understand that with those decisions comes extra time just moving from location to location, which can just be an absolute drag. So Tiffany, in terms of the sort of wireless setup that we had on So Cold the River, I know we had some Bolt 4Ks. I know we had some Bolt 3000s. And then, of course, the Serve kind of working in tandem with all those systems. I mean, for me personally, I don't know if you found this challenging, but wireless signals are tricky in, the middle of this sort of historic hotel. It just lots of metal, lots of steel. And, for the most part, I didn't see huge hiccups out of the wireless, but I know that was something that the whole AC department was watching, most of the time, right?
Yeah, I mean, our camera team was really on it. Nicole Harmon and Carter Hoffman were just so fantastic. And I told them in prep, like, hey, listen, I'm here if you need me, but I really don't want to think about monitors. And they took it upon themselves to make sure they were up and running constantly. So within prep, we came up with a signal flow. And then when we were adding a second camera or doing specific things where we could have limited monitors, we came up with different solutions for each of those things so that when the time comes and we're like, okay, we got to go down to 1/7 inch, 1/17, we knew exactly what to switch over and how long it would take.
Yeah, I think one of the neat things for me personally, operating on this film was just for whatever reason, how many jib shots we had on the dolly from extremely low to extremely high. And if you haven't met me, I'm 6'2", so I'm pretty tall, but it's a jib shot that goes up to sometimes 8 feet in the air, whatever the max height is on a just Fisher dolly. And
Mm.
so I would have to look at the Alexa Mini LF monitor low, and then halfway through the move, I would have to change my eye line to look at the Cine 7, all in the course of one move, which was a little strange for me. That's not a way I'm always used to working. So sometimes mid shot, I'm using multiple monitors just to keep everything composed. So anyway, a little weird for me. There's a certain amount of trust too that I think you have to have, especially for you, pulling focus on the Bolt 703. Is this actually critical focus? You have to believe that the monitor's not lying to you, the technology is not lying to you to some extent. And I think personally with the 17-inch P3 monitors that we had on set, I mean, I personally felt like the color was very true. And I know Madeline K. Kahn, the DP that we were both working with, was lighting primarily by looking at these monitors.
I've been using SmallHD monitors for years now, and everyone has their specific brand that they like. But once you start using one monitor, you can really tell how that monitor will project sharpness.
Yeah, and that's sort of an intangible thing. I mean, I think color is the same way. I'm sure everyone has, had a LUT on a monitor, gone into post, and thought that isn't exactly how I saw it when I was on top of that mountain looking through that monitor. And yeah, you don't want to be second guessing yourself in the field. You want to, trust the technology you're working with. Absolutely.
The 17-inch monitors I hadn't worked with before, and when we unpackaged them, I noticed that they had a Limo in the back, and I was ecstatic because it's one of the things I hate. I hate cables. I hate like crazy setups. So the more compact, more slick it looks, the better I feel. So having that Limo on the back of the monitor just made the whole setup a lot easier to manage. Another really great feature about the 703 is the screenshot capability. I end up screenshotting almost every setup so that I can reference our settings and also continuity stuff. And it's also nice for the DP to be able to look back through.
And that feature actually became really important to us too. Without going into too much detail into the story, there's points where you need to directly match shots that you previously maybe filmed, 2 weeks prior in a separate scene. And you can overlay images directly over one another. So that's super helpful too, just for that specific reason. So maybe Tiffany, you can touch on how you've evolved in your career, specifically in and around SmallHD products. Because I know for myself, I started off on the DP4. Did you ever use the DP4? That had to be like the first SmallHD monitor. I mean, it was, I don't know, it was way back in the day. And yeah, and that was sort of, I remember around like the DSLR revolution, I had that DP4, and then I just sort of grew and grew as the camera bodies sort of got bigger from, 5D Mark IIs, and then all the way up to an Alexa LF on this movie. So you've been using SmallHD for most of your career, or you're new to it, or tell me about that.
Yeah, I've been using SmallHD for most of my career. I started out in a camera rental house, DB Video Rentals in Nashville. And while I was there, I got to play around with and test out every monitor on the market. We had anything from SmallHD to TV Logic to weird off-brand, whatever. SmallHD just started cranking out these really impressive monitors. So I got to like kind of see that evolution in an interesting way. So when I started looking into purchasing a monitor for myself, it was no question. It was like SmallHD all the way. Like they're durable. They have great color. I like the way they project focus.
Yeah, and you have that perspective from, you know, working in a fast-paced sort of rental house environment. You know what comes back in a million pieces after not taking that big a hit, and what doesn't, right? And what survives to go out again on the next shoot. There you have it, everybody. So Cold the River. We don't have a release date yet. Directed by Paul Schulberg, starring Joy Lenz, Andy West. Coming hopefully very soon once all the quarantine and stay-at-home type orders lift and we can all go back to the theater. But thank you so much for watching, and we just wanted to pass on just a little bit of how we use SmallHD products and Teradek products on feature films. So thank you, everyone. Have a good rest of your day.